Welcome to the Budget Mom YouTube channel. I'm Kamiko Love from thebudgetmom.com, and I am back today, it's been a while, but with another real life budget. Today we're going to be looking at a community member named Chelly. She is the administrative assistant for the fire department in Orange County, California. So she lives in a very high living cost area. She is the single mom of 2 children. And I wanted to say very quickly some notes about Chelly. We're going to be getting into her why and her story and more about her financial situation. But first I want to note, because she lives in such a high cost area, she is considered low income, so she does get some assistance. So she receives a monthly $20 in vouchers for fruits and vegetables and monthly vouchers for milk, bread, and eggs through the state WIC program. She also goes to a food pantry weekly. She says she usually receives some mostly expired stuff through that food pantry, but a lot of it can still be used. Other than that, the state just gives her reduced healthcare and daycare costs. So I thought that would be helpful information to know prior to diving into the rest of her financials. So when looking over Chelly's information, of course, the first thing I did was the red light, green light test. When I compare her income to everything that she is spending, is she in the negative or is she in the positive? Chelly has a green light. She's in the positive. So we're going to be looking at that today. Also, another great thing I noticed about her financial situation is that she has done a tremendous job with saving. She has done a tremendous job of paying off high interest debt. She has done a tremendous job of figuring out her financial goals. When I was talking to Chelly or reading her email, one of the things she says, it's not so much the trouble with budgeting, more so it's figuring out, okay, I have this money left over. It can't cover everything that I want it to do. So how do I know where to place this money and when to start savings for things, when to stop saving for things, the timing in the beginning of that process. So it's more this confusion around her priorities, essentially. And one of the hardest things and one of the hardest steps to figure out on this kind of financial transformation, I feel like is a step that's so easily skipped and is skipped most often, is really figuring out and diving into what are you truly trying to accomplish with your money? What are your values? What are the things that bring you joy and value? How do you define success in your life? Those are all those hard, what I call the hard work of figuring out and getting really a deep understanding and clarity around what the heck are you wanting from the money that you do have? What are you really trying to accomplish now and in the future? And then you have to start placing your money in areas or in things that are ultimately going to lead you to that outcome, that desired outcome. So let's look at Chelly's information. All right, so let's look at Chelly's, a little bit more about her why and information. So she lives in Orange County, California. She's a single mom of 2. So her why is her children. She is committed to ensure her children have a financially stable and secure household. Although I am considered low income for my area and receive government aid, I want to be sure I can provide for my family without having to rely on the extra assistance. So a little bit about her personal story. She rents a 2-bedroom large and affordable for this area townhome in a very high cost of living area, and I'm not able to move at this time. I hope to become a homeowner in the next few years to give my family a permanent sense of home. My fixation with putting away money in sinking funds is causing me to lose sight of priorities, and it's been very difficult to fund my major goals such as home ownership. I cut corners wherever I can. I thrift shop, receive assistance with childcare cost reductions and low-cost healthcare. So I know it is possible for me to save. I have a government job with a retirement plan, and I contribute to a Roth 457B plan that gets deducted from her paycheck. So obviously looking at this, it seems like that home ownership is really important to her. And so we might even look at when we get to that of where do we throw money, putting more towards her home ownership savings goal than we do her sinking funds. Now, let's look at her income. So she currently is paid biweekly. She gets a total of $4,604 a month. So her first paycheck on October 14th is $2,022, and then again on the 10/28. She also receives child support on the 1st for $560. Now let's look at her debt. She has one debt. She has done the remarkable work of paying off high interest credit cards and other debts. Car loan of $7,800 at 2.49%, $300 minimum payment due on the 15th of every month. That is Chelly's only debt. Now, the first thing I did when looking at Chelly's information is to run her information through my green light, red light test, or my red light, green light test. Essentially, you're looking at, does your income cover your quality of life or your spending that's happening right now? If it's a green light, you have the green light, it's positive amount left over. You have the green light to continue on with a financial plan. If you take your income and subtract your spending or expenses and you get a negative number, it's a red light. That means stop. It's time to look at what is causing us to overspend above the income that we are receiving or the money we have to spend. So with her, we do have $390 left over. She got the green light to move forward with her financial plan. Now you can see she has rent of $2,214, childcare, internet, but you can see in her fixed expenses, she really doesn't have anything outside of necessities, right? She's got some major goals she's focusing on, and they total $3,604. So I took her income, I subtracted her fixed and variable spending. So let's look at her variable spending. She budgets the following amounts every month for these categories. Now, these are in monthly form. So remember, if you're wondering why her food is so low, remember what I mentioned in the beginning of this video. She does get some government assistance with food, healthcare, and childcare. So she does set some money aside for kids spending. Gas is at $130. So total is $610 for her variable expenses. If we look at our saving goals, okay, what I like to do is we have $390 left within her budget after subtracting her spending to work on every month for goals. Now you can see Chelly has done some amazing work. $21,000 already saved towards her home down payment of $30,000. She wants to reach that in 1 to 3 years. She already has $7,600 saved for her emergency fund of $12,000. She wants to reach that in 2 to 5 years. So these are more of her top, I feel like more top, not so urgent, immediate savings goals, but down here she's got her sinking funds. She has holidays, birthdays, car registration, car maintenance, medical, electronics, and vacation. Now the ones with these slashes through it are more ongoing. There's no end goal. It's just what she saves every month. You can see that she has a lot of money already saved for these types of things. She has $840 saved for her yearly holiday budget. Now, Ryan and I were talking about this holiday budget. We don't know if it's Christmas oriented or if it's all holidays throughout the year. If that's the case, then we have a little more time to save up for things. But if it's strictly for like Christmas and Black Friday shopping, then we essentially only have 2 months to save to have that money in time. And that's what we went with. So we would need to save $420 a month alone just to get to our holiday budget. We only have $390 a month. Even if we threw all that money towards that one goal, we still wouldn't reach the 1680 that she wants to reach by that time frame. We can get really close. So what we decided to do, let's look and put this information inside of the Budget by Paycheck method. Just to make things easier, we're going to start with the very first paycheck she receives on the 14th. I'm not talking about child support, but I'm talking her very first paycheck in October. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a paycheck that covers all of these bills in teal, as well as rent that we know we need to have by November 1st. Now remember, any single time, if you get paid multiple times in a month and you have a big expense like rent or mortgage, you need to break that payment or expense down into your paychecks. So we're going to put $1,000 a month right now in October with our first paycheck to cover November's rent. That leaves us $697 left over. And what I'm decided to do, I'm just going to fund all of her variable spending for the entire month with this first paycheck. So we don't have to worry about it again. So that equals $610, leaving us $87 left over. This is where it gets very, very personal. Now, we decided to try to cover that holiday expense, thinking that she had Christmas expenses that she wanted to pay for coming up. However, though, this could also go towards her home ownership goal of saving that down payment. You have to ask yourself, what am I fighting for? And you need to balance that between wants, needs, and time frames. Short-term goals versus medium-term goals versus long-term goals. Her holiday sinking fund being obviously more short-term, her home ownership goal being more medium. And reading her why and her story, it seems like the home ownership goal is really important to her to reach that. But without really diving into that discussion with Chelly, we put the $87 towards her holidays. Now let's look at our paycheck that we're going to be receiving on the 28th. Well, the 28th and the 1st of November come up real close to each other. So I'm combining these two incomes. So we're budgeting for our paycheck that we're receiving on October 28th with the child support we're receiving on November 1st, giving us a total income of $2,582. So we're going to be covering all of these expenses that we see in orange, which is going to leave us with $303 left over. You ask yourself, what is the number one thing I'm trying to achieve? She said in her why that she feels like providing and saving for all these many different sinking funds is distracting her from her true priorities, which is home ownership. Now, in this example, we put it towards the holidays. Okay, we're going to try to get as close as we can if that truly is just for Christmas and Black Friday shopping and that type of thing. Getting her as closest to that goal as possible. Now, after a couple of paychecks, she can then reevaluate her financial goals and her savings goals and go back to the home ownership. Or she can start with the home ownership. Like I said, it depends on those priorities. If we look at the paycheck she receives on November 11th, we're going to take care of all of these ones in purple. But remember, we need to start again taking care of rent. Rent happening on 12/1, we're putting $1,000 towards it. And then we're taking care, remember, of her variable expenses and spending. And we're left with the $87. So this is going to repeat. Once again, $87. And if you're thinking to yourself, let's look at our goals for a second. On our savings goals, what happens? Let's look at the consequences if we don't save for these things. Vacation. So we postpone a vacation. Electronics. We don't upgrade to the newest phone. Medical is pretty important. That might be one that I will look at keeping. Car maintenance, same with that one. Car registration. Birthday and holidays have some wiggle room on the amount that we spend. Remember, we have control over how much we decide to spend in a category. So maybe we cut the amount of presents just this one year. Or we reevaluate our spending. Let's say, okay, what areas of this category can I decrease my spending a little bit? So if we keep the medical, car maintenance, and car registration, and we could possibly tweak this, we can cover those, and then we can come back up here and start funding the home down payment. Do we simplify here so we can prioritize our main goal here? Because what's causing the stress and the feeling of I'm not doing enough here is what's going on down here. So we need to look at how do we simplify this and get back on track with what she has in her heart for her goal of home ownership. So as mentioned at the beginning of this video, that struggle of figuring out what to save for, when to start, when to end, It's such a hard question for me to answer because without knowing what Chelly is feeling, without knowing Chelly's true priorities, if for me, I'd say just save for all of these things, but that's not realistic. We need to pinpoint exactly what is her number one financial priority that she is trying to accomplish right now. Now, in this real life budget, I put what you saw, the extra income in her budget, to go towards her holidays. We're spending 2 paychecks, getting her as close as we can to her holiday goal. And then after that, she has 2 options. She can fund her major, significant, more long-term type of savings goals, which is her home down payment and an emergency fund, or it's taking care of all of these kind of short-term, not detrimental, not needed expenses, like birthdays, for instance. We can fund the rest of her sinking fund with the $390 so that we have in our budget, or we can then put it towards, say, her home down payment in her emergency. Now, as you saw, she has $21,000 saved. We also have a car loan that we are looking at. The reason I'm not so quick to act on the car loan, and that car loan being $7,800 with about 2.4% interest, $300 minimum payment, it's not a high interest, urgent type of cash flow breaking type of debt. It is a debt, but we have to ask ourselves, are there more pressing issues and priorities that we need to take care of? So really, if you bring in the debt, she has 3 options. Debt, the more long-term, which is the home down payment or funding the rest of her emergency fund, or funding her sinking funds. The way I look at this, without knowing how Chelly is feeling, without knowing what her true priorities are, when I look at this, I say to focus on her sinking funds first. Why is that? Well, because she already has emergency savings of $7,600. Is it all the way 3 to 6 months worth of expenses? No, but it's a hefty savings where she can cover a sizable emergency if something happened. She has $21,000 saved for her home already. She wants $30,000. We're getting there with a 1 to 3 year time frame. So savings for those 2 things, in my mind, not truly 100% pressing, doesn't have to be done right this second. Same with the car loan. So if it were me, I would tackle covering these sinking funds and getting to a place where I'm comfortable. Now she has 4 different ongoing sinking funds: the car, maintenance, medical, electronics, and vacation. Well, I can throw electronics and vacation right out the gate. I mean, we can throw those out the window if we need to, if we're just looking at more necessities than we are wants. So that's how I would personally cover it if it was my own goals and priorities. But maybe Chelly's sitting at home and she's saying, you know, this down payment is keeping me up at night for my house. I really need to get this goal out of the way. Well, then I would focus towards the down payment for the home. If she's like, I just want to be 100% debt free, I want to get rid of that car loan, well, then we need to start putting the extra money towards that debt. But first and foremost, you know, making sure that we have the money covered for upcoming spending we know is going to happen, right? That's important, coming up with that, so we're not pressured to use a credit card or go even more into debt. So that is the real life budget for Chelly. If you found this video helpful, please like it and don't forget to subscribe.